Hello, and welcome to today's commentary on the State of the Union, or as I like to refer to it as, Snafu. Now, before I get started, I got some interesting mail today from an eBay purchase. I have not opened this yet. I did open the envelope just to save us some time, and inside are two. Look at that. Looky there. Yeah, you know why I think this ties into the State of the Union is because Bernie Madoff was he was a con man. He was somebody that lied to a bunch of people and made them think that things were going to be better for them if they trusted in him. And I can't see any comparisons there with anybody else. So, not to waste any more of your time, let's start with the State of the Union. My first note is it could have been about 15 minutes if people just sat down in their chairs and shut the F up. And instead, it was every other thing he said. It was. And, oh my God. It was just. Could you let the man try to talk? I mean, he's already distracted. He's old. He's definitely got some cognitive issues going on, and I don't think he needs the distraction unless you're trying to give him a stroke or a heart attack, and then Kamala would just instantly start partying. So yeah, there was that, and what else did I notice before I get into what Biden actually said? The audience was socially distanced. Everybody was they had one seat in between everyone, but then everybody's leaning over and they're like, hey, what do you say? Oh, dude, I'm so sorry that happened to you. They're touching each other, they're leaning over, they're whispering in each other's ears. So they're social distancing, but acting like COVID's not a thing. So I guess it's not a thing. So, one of the first things Biden talked about was Putin's attack was unprovoked. Which, the more I'm learning about the situation in Ukraine and the things that we've been doing ever since the fall of the wall, I'm not believing that's necessarily true. And there's a lot of people coming out now saying that NATO and the United States did a lot to provoke Putin into doing some kind of action. There's the biolabs that we had in Ukraine, which apparently Putin is attacking all the areas that have these facilities that we run and fund and operate, and it's like right on his border. And hey, we already had the COVID situation, so can't really blame him on that. There's also the NATO expansion where we promised at the fall of the Berlin Wall that NATO would not expand any further than it has, and all it's done is creep closer towards Russia. So there's that. He stated that he shared intel on what Putin was planning with our allies. He failed to mention that one of the groups or countries that we shared that information with was China, who immediately took those photos and information of Russian troop movements to Russia. Because, we should just move along from there. Let's see here. I got my notes. I got tons of notes. I even have fact checking because I didn't believe half the shit that he was saying. There were some things I knew I could instantly look up and just be like, yeah, that's not true. He talked about how America was stealing the property of Russian citizens for no reason. Just because you're a wealthy Russian doesn't mean that you side with Putin. And we also know that when Putin came into power, many of the oligarchs, all of the oligarchs were required to hand over a percentage of their wealth to Putin in order to not go to prison, disappear. To operate within Russia. Had There's no threats involved whatsoever. Nobody disappeared when they said no. Yeah, they did. Let's see here. There's $1 billion in aid going to Ukraine. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but when you consider that he mentions right afterwards that Russia is working with $630 billion in their war chest, it doesn't. It's like seeing a bully walking up with an M16 to a little kid and then handing the little kid a stick. But it's a nice stick. He might be able to do something with it. Man. He also talked about 60 million barrels of oil being released from the reserve to help with gas prices. Pretty sure we use about, what was it, 30 million per day? If I have those numbers correct, I mean, it's not much. Yeah. And currently, where I live, I don't know about you, but it is $3.79 a gallon. I haven't yet left the house yet today, and it seems to go up 10 to 20 cents per day since this whole thing in Ukraine started. So I would not be surprised if we're getting close to like $4 a gallon here in northern Michigan. One thing we could do, which we haven't done, and it was not stated in the State of the Union, was we're still buying oil from Russia. And that money that we're spending to buy their oil is going to fund the war in Ukraine that we're supposed to be trying to stop. Whew. Oh, here's my favorite quote. Putin may circle Kiev with tanks, but he will never win the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. Let's see here. 15 minutes into the State of the Union, he starts attacking Trump. Because he can't figure out the difference between a previous president who has no political power whatsoever and some guy over in Russia who's invading another country that we are sworn to protect, because that was the agreement we made with them back in 1996. You know, when Biden was just old and not like decaying back then. Let's see here. American Rescue Plan. He talked about that quite a bit. Which him trying to sell that bill, I just like put that on par with adding to the inflation. Oh yeah, he was talking about job growth. How we've had more job growth in the last than the previous administration. Yeah, okay, so you have a bunch of Democratic governors shut down their economies, and then you come into power, they start opening things up again after you're elected, and then you get to claim that as job growth. That's not how that freaking works here, dude. Your party created the unemployment that you're now claiming that you solved. Moron. Build Back Better is now Rebuild America, which is what every president since 2000 has said that they wanted to do, and no one has ever freaking done it. So, congratulations on that one. He wants to add 500,000 electric charging stations. We have what, like 250, 300 million cars? I guess. Oh, clean water at schools. I thought that was pretty funny. He can start with Flint. 4,000 projects he has planned with no way to pay for it because all he talks about in the second half is tax cuts and tax breaks. And then taxing people and companies who can just move. Let's see here. $600 billion defense fund, which means that technically Russia spends more than us with a GDP that's smaller than the country of Italy. I thought that was fascinating. Apparently Russia is like really big on like kicking ass because like what we spend and what they spend is pretty close, but yeah, Russia doesn't have the economy or the infrastructure that we do, but they I don't know. I just thought that was kind of odd. Let's see here. He kept telling Congress to just sign the bill. That's referring to the American Rescue Plan, which, okay. So he told the story about how Intel wants to build a $12 billion facility in Ohio to build microchips. But if they sign the American Rescue Plan, they would invest $120 billion into this facility. So they need to sign it. So Intel will create, what was it? It was something stupid like 11,000 new jobs in this one place, which really, I mean, it isn't much. And the only reason I can think that Intel would want to invest 120 billion instead of 12 billion is that we're paying for it. They sign the rescue plan, they get some type of grant, or there's something in there that states that our tax dollars go to this company to build this facility, to create jobs, which 99.9% of us will not be qualified to do, and it benefits Intel. That's my take on that. Woo, all right. Yeah, electric cars. Oh, so electric cars manufacturing is creating 11,000 new jobs. There's 330 million Americans. Yeah, okay. GM created 4,000 new jobs in Michigan. Okay. Still not impressed. Then we get to inflation. Oh my God. Let Joe Biden tell you about inflation. He never once addressed what causes inflation. And it's none of the things that he talked about. It is the devaluation of money by printing more money, which makes the money that already exists worth less than it was before. You create more of something, it has less value. If you're in a desert, water's worth a lot in a desert. If your town is flooded from torrential rains, you don't want that water. It has zero value. It has a negative value because it just destroyed your house and now your car has water damage. And so yeah, his solution for inflation is getting prices under control. Let's see here. Yeah, he uses every excuse, but you know what actually causes inflation? Oh, this was a real kicker. You know, you might want to write this one down. He said one way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poor. He also said that you can lower your cost, but not your wages. Then I wrote, what the fuck? So he's basically telling Americans that they need to find ways of spending less money on the things that we need in order to combat inflation. But if he just stopped printing money, we wouldn't have to do that. So he also was discussing other ways to fight inflation, like he's going to lower your cost and lower the deficit. So somehow he's going to make things cheaper for us while also paying off the national debt, which that's not happening, and we'll find out why. Let's see here. He wants to cut the cost of prescription drugs. Apparently there is a bill passed by the House to make it where people with diabetes didn't have to spend more than $35 a month on their insulin, which actually that sounds kind of okay with me considering how much insulin costs and what the profit margin is. Also, I'd like to point out Trump tried to do this. He did. He wanted to regulate prescription drug prices, and people said no. The same people who have stock in Pfizer during a pandemic and tell the American people they have to get a certain vaccine. Those people. Let's see here. He also wants to have Medicaid negotiate the price of prescription drugs, which Trump also tried to do because that's called a free and open market. He also stated that American households should not pay more than 7% of their income to child care. In what world does child care cost only 7%? If it was only 7%, people would not be complaining about the cost of child care. And when Biden's talking about raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, that raises the price of child care. Idiot. He wants to redo the Obama energy tax cut. If you make your home energy efficient, you get a tax break, yada, yada, yada. That expired. He wants to bring that back again. Great original idea. I'm so glad he thought of it. No new taxes or tax increases for anybody making under $400,000 a year. Funny how that includes everybody in the House and Congress, because technically they only make, like $120,000, $140,000 a year. So they're not getting taxed anymore. They also don't spend their money on anything because we pay for it all. Corporations and the wealthy should pay more. How do you create more jobs if corporations are spending more of their profits on taxes instead of expanding their business and hiring more people to make more profits, which they're just going to hand over to the government in taxes? He wants to have a 50% minimum corporate tax, which also means corporations are going to leave America like they did beforehand, and you're still not getting any income in federal taxes to pay the debt and the deficit and all the stupid ass programs you want to do. Okay. He also blames Trump for the national debt, because that didn't start with Bush, and it really didn't go up under Obama. Sarcasm much right there, for those of you who didn't get that joke. And Biden, he just got us to the $30 trillion mark. So I don't know what he's referring to there. Okay. He wants to start a group to prosecute pandemic fraud, which I thought was hilarious because they gave money to dead people and non-citizens with those stimulus checks. So I think they need to look at themselves for prosecution. That'd be great. No one in the room was wearing a mask. That was a note that I should have highlighted that for the beginning of this video, but I thought that was pretty funny. He also swore to continue to fight the virus, even though it's pretty much gone away. Putin solved the pandemic, because you don't hear about COVID anymore except from this guy. Never give up vaccinating more Americans. Also, the federal government is buying a crap ton of Pfizer pills for fighting COVID, which I thought was hilarious because we already had pills that fight COVID and they refused to use them. Free test. Oh, yeah. He talked about the free test that he shipped in the mail in the middle of winter when the solution in the test kits froze and broke out of the. Great idea! I love wasting my tax dollars. Awesome. He wants to spend more money on COVID and vaccinating the world. Because we're going to cut our national debt down by spending money on other people who could pay for their own freaking vaccines. Oh, here's another gem. You can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The American Rescue Plan is a bill of $350 billion. Again, there's nothing stating how we're going to pay for that. He also said this was a golden moment. We need to fund the police. And then they looked at AOC a moment later, and she didn't die or poop herself. So she must be okay with that now. She wants to fund the police. I mean, she is dating a white guy, even though she's technically a colored person. I thought that was pretty funny, you know. What, black dicks don't matter? Universal background checks for guns. We already have those. Idiot. Let's see here. Gun manufacturers can't be sued. Yes, they can, and they have been. Actually, I think, who was it? Remington settled out of court. So yeah, they can be sued. Idiot. Freedom to Vote Act. I still can't figure out who is stopping people, not preventing, stopping people from voting. Like there's people outside of voting places with guns or something saying, no, you can't vote. No, not you. No. The Freedom to Vote Act. Everybody has the ability to vote. And I'm sorry to point this out, but black people know how to find the Secretary of State's office too. They drive. They're not driving around without a license. I don't know how this is a thing. He also talked about securing the border and fixing immigration, and somebody in the audience yelled out, "Build the wall," which I actually thought was pretty funny. He talked about dreamers. The Supreme Court already decided on that, but as we know, Biden doesn't believe in the power of the Supreme Court and does whatever the hell he wants. Which makes the Supreme Court absolutely useless, and I don't know why he's even appointing anybody. Because he's not going to listen to them anyways. He called abortion a constitutional right. It's not. Also, the opioid epidemic. Well, I mean, he did help with that because he put the Taliban back in power. So, gotta give credit where credit's due, right? But he didn't mention anything about the Chinese import of drugs to places like Mexico where they cross the border because we're sending our border patrol over to Poland and we don't have a wall up. The border's not secure. Shall I go on? Whew, let's see here. Private companies are collecting data on our children. But it's okay for the NSA to do it. Because that was revealed like just before the invasion of Ukraine. That they're still doing it, and they've been doing it since Bush was in office. So that never stopped. He just doesn't want the private companies to do it, even though they hand over any information that they have to the federal government. I thought that was kind of interesting. Oh, and we will continue to fight for freedom. The freedom to have open slave trade in places like Libya, where we came, we saw, we killed them. Or how was it that Hillary did it? We came, we saw, he died. And yeah, now Libya's pretty free, and unless you're standing on a platform waiting to see what the highest bidder is going to be. So yeah, that's awesome. Oh yeah, let's see here. What other freedom can we? Oh yeah, the freedom for ISIS to create their caliphate. That was pretty awesome. The freedom for the Taliban to come in and reclaim a country that we kicked them out of because they were supporting terrorists. The freedom to grow poppies and create the opioid epidemic. That was freaking awesome. And then the weirdest statement of all, this is at the end, and then I'm going to get to the fact checks. Fact check! Fact check! He closed the whole thing with, "Go get him!" And nobody knows who the hell he was referring to. I suggested letting him know that Osama bin Laden is dead. So there is that, and maybe we're doing something with Putin. I don't know. So, anyways, my camera is telling me that this is about to shut off. I'll mention this in a future video, and keep on typing.